My husband condemned me to the mourning of a silent infidelity. I never saw it coming, at least not in the way it unfolded. The signs were all there if I had only known how to read them. My husband, Samuel, the man I had married, the father of our children, had always been the one I trusted with everything. His love, or what I thought was love, had been my anchor for years. But that love, like everything else in our relationship, was a lie. It started small, almost imperceptible. He began coming home later than usual, often with vague excuses. Work had run late, traffic was horrible, he had to meet a colleague. At first I was patient. We had a busy life after all. But the excuses became more frequent, and the hours away from home grew longer. I would lie awake at night, the bed cold beside me, my mind racing. I didn't want to admit what I was starting to suspect, but deep down I knew. One evening, I decided to surprise him by picking him up from work. I hadn't done that in a while, and I thought it would be nice to reconnect. But when I got to the office, he wasn't there. I called his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I waited for a while, and then I saw it. His car parked a few blocks down. My heart sank, and my legs felt weak as I approached it, but I couldn't bring myself to check the license plate at first. I had no proof, just an overwhelming sense of dread. I waited, thinking he would come back soon. The minutes felt like hours, and I began to question myself. Am I overreacting? Is this just my paranoia? But when he finally returned, there was something different in the way he looked at me. Something cold, guarded. He greeted me with a quick kiss on the cheek and avoided my eyes. His smile was distant, his demeanor off, but he gave no explanation. The silence that followed was worse than any fight we could have had. He never confessed, and I never asked. The trust that had once bound us began to erode quietly, slowly, as I buried my suspicions deep within me. It wasn't just the late nights or the distance between us. It was the way he stopped looking at me the same way, the way his affection became mechanical, the way he pulled away when I needed him most. I didn't confront him about the affair. Instead, I became consumed with the silence. The constant ache of not knowing, the growing realization that he was somewhere else, emotionally, physically, spiritually. He had abandoned me, and yet there were no words. No closure. I felt like I was mourning the death of something I couldn't fully understand. I lived in that silent mourning for months. I put on a smile for our children, continued with my duties as a wife, but inside, I was unraveling. Every touch he gave me felt hollow. Every "I love you" felt like a lie. I became a shadow of the woman I once was, watching him slip further away without ever knowing exactly when it happened. One day I found an old picture of us from happier times. It was a snapshot of us on vacation, laughing, holding hands like nothing could tear us apart. Looking at it, I felt a sharp pang of grief, not just for the love I thought we had, but for the life I had lost. In that moment, I realized that I was mourning the death of our marriage without even knowing how or when it had ended. I waited for him to confess, for him to come to me and say the words I desperately needed to hear, that it was over, that he had betrayed me, that he was sorry. But those words never came. Instead, the silence grew deeper. Every day, I lived in the mourning of something I couldn't touch, something I couldn't change. His infidelity had become a quiet ghost between us, a wound that never healed, a wound he never acknowledged. It was then that I realized the truth. I had been condemned to mourn without closure, to live in a constant state of grief without ever knowing what I was grieving for. I was mourning a relationship that had died slowly, quietly, with no finality, no apology, no confession. And that silence, the way he had left me to grieve without ever speaking of it, was the most painful betrayal of all. I had loved him, trusted him, built my life around him, and in return, he had given me nothing but silence and distance, leaving me to mourn the loss of something that never truly existed.